Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into South Carolina sports, football, hoops, the NCAA, everything that comes along with it.
Where our opinions are never filtered, sometimes reasonable, and always fun.
That's right. You can check out all of those takes that we have on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all those platforms. Settle in, y'all, and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game!
Hey, welcome back, Carolina fans. Another episode of Alumni Game. Us alumni here. Mike Ritchie, class of '06. Sam Nienmeyer, class of '06. Getting into the draft this week, which is pretty fun with all these South Carolina players here. We're missing our one other alumni. Buster is traveling this week. We got some notes from him. He was also able to attend the spring game, so we'll unpack some of that soon too. We did have a Gamecock of the Week set up for this week. But it's kind of fortuitous that it's the draft instead because we were thinking about Cam Pringle. Cam Pringle has since hit the portal. So, we don't want to shoot our shot too early. In this case, we didn't. But instead, we'll send off some Gamecocks to the NFL. Some would have been former Gamecocks of the week because of where they're going to go.
Hey, great save there, right?
Yeah, gotta try.
Say goodbye. While we take him to the NFL. Love it. Great save.
Yeah, kiss him off, chef's kiss. So in this episode, obviously we'll be getting into the draft. We'll be getting into the South Carolina players in the draft. 11 that were at the combine, although I think we're counting Kai Kroeger, kicker, for 12, but the rest of the media isn't doing that, so that's okay. And some of the big stories here, at the top of the draft, and some other SEC notable players that we think are going to kind of weigh in here or be bigger stories. So Sam, I'll let you start in with it. For you at the top of the draft, what's the big lead? What do you think? I mean, it's got to be the number one pick, right?
Yeah, I think so. And for the first time in a while, a lot of people are stumped about like, hey, we don't know who's going where, right? It looks like there's a consensus top one, which is Cam Ward. Though Cam Ward was on playing, I forget what he was playing. He was playing Fortnite or something. It was on some type of Twitch or something like that. And people were asking him who are your favorite receivers. And his top four receivers, two of them were Titans. So I think he's ready to go to Tennessee. I don't think they're sold on Will Levis. Outside of that, I don't know what's going to be. I mean, I'm guessing the Browns will most likely go with Travis Hunter, who we think is probably the best player in the draft. But obviously, you got to go with what your team needs, and quarterback's premier position. So I'm thinking Cam Ward was probably most likely going to go one to Tennessee. I don't know if he's the best quarterback available, but Tennessee likes him, so that's where they're going to go, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, there are some years where like number two is already on the clock, right? Like one is a
Mhm.
done deal.
Yeah.
That's not the case here. And good for Tennessee playing it close to the vest. Maybe they did not want Cam Ward to say that. That does feel a little bit homer to say, yeah, two of my favorite wide receivers in the, I mean, come on, there's so
Good
many
for him
other
though. I
better
mean,
wide receivers.
I appreciate the hustle for hustling up your teammates. Like maybe he doesn't know he's gonna be the first pick, but that's a good move to signify
Yeah, it's a
he's the
good
one
PR
to
move
first
for
pick. Good,
sure.
good move by him.
And look, I think no matter who you are, if you're the number one pick, you want to go to a team that needs you and show me a team that needs it more that is in position to do it. I mean, if there were other teams that we really thought could get into the number one pick and do this, but we've seen what it takes to take the number one pick from another team, and that requires multiple number ones to get the player you want. I hate to do this to Cam Ward because I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's the type of player you do that for. We've talked about some other teams that need a quarterback, and we'll get into that. But I don't see any reason any of those teams should mortgage their entire future to get to number one. It's just not that kind of draft. I mean, if you take Cam Ward and you put him in the previous draft in last year or the year before, I don't even know that he's top four.
Yeah, I
You
gotta agree with
know,
you. Yeah.
so you missed last year. You didn't take the quarterback last year. You're in position this year because you lost the most amount of games. That's great. Get what you need. and you need a quarterback. And look, we're in a business here. The NFL is not just let's play and it's about football, it's about business. You draft a quarterback at number one, you will sell those jerseys, you will sell tickets, and just to see that guy play. And then if he does live up to the number one, great. But show me a guy who ever lived up to number one. I mean, we love Clowney, and he's still playing well in this league, but he probably has not fully lived up to a number one pick. Nobody can, really, when you think of how much is valued at that position. So, is he the number one player for me? No. If it's pure talent, I'm actually going Carter, then Travis, then maybe Cam, and then I think one or two more, and then Shador. Um, but yeah, offensive tackles, edge guys, they're not, I mean, they're impactful, but they're just not as sexy. They don't put butts in seats. It isn't what people want to see on draft night. So I get that. But I
It's
think Tennessee is not going wrong by doing what they're doing. Look, if someone pulls up the Brinks truck and a whole bunch of picks, they should do it.
yeah.
But otherwise, I like what they're doing. I think the real questions are at 2 and 3. It does sound like the Browns and the Giants are open for business and are getting calls. I think both those teams should do that. Both those teams are in full rebuild mode. I know that, both those teams have good players, but the Browns are still mired in the Deshaun Watson situation and they need cheap players. That's what draft capital gets you. And the Giants are young as it is. I mean, they got rookies, rookies, second year players all over the field, including key offensive positions. Um, and if for some reason a quarterback is there, the Giants may think about it. But they got three quarterbacks now that have started. Even Tommy Cutlets has started. So I don't see why they would get a quarterback.
Yeah, they're not gonna, I don't think, I mean, there was a lot of talk, we were talking before the episode, there's a lot of talk about Shador Sanders going to the Giants. I just don't think that that's like a lot, like, from what the Sanders camp is saying, it's probably not the best move.
Yeah.
So here's the way I read this, right? Cam Ward goes number one. That's just because the Titans feel like
Yep.
he's most pro-ready quarterback, and that's where
Yeah.
they need.
He's got that weird delivery, and yes, he
He
played in the
does.
ACC and
He,
stumbled a little, but
he does, but I don't know why they're not sold on Will Levis yet. Don't get me wrong, Will Levis made some boneheaded plays last year, right? Like the one against Chicago stands out where he's like trying to throw from his knees and lateral it.
and when he went to the
was.
sideline and like hurt himself, yeah,
But also he's also got some talent. He can spin it. Like
he's got a cannon.
he's
He's got
got
a
a cannon.
cannon.
So I'm kind of shocked they don't really want to develop that much longer. I don't know what they must not like him. So it seems like they're set on that. So what it comes down to with the Browns and the Giants at Browns at 2, Giants at 3, this is like these are the two best players in the draft. It's Travis Hunter and Abdullah Carter.
Yes.
And this is why the Browns and the Giants are open for business because after that, this draft could go anywhere. It could go to any place, like anyone could make a trade for something because there's not like necessarily the stars, right? It's Travis Hunter and it's Abdullah Carter from the combine. We think also Nick Emmanwori, but that's just us.
Yeah.
So like, but from there, it's just a lot of guys that'll be quality starters, not necessarily stars.
Yeah. And you're teeing me up here because who is the fourth team but
Who
my
is the
team, the
fourth?
New England Patriots, and that puts them in possibly the worst situation in the
Yeah.
draft, which is kind of like, why did the season unfold the way it did?
Am I reading this right? That they're like no one really wants to trade with them to the fourth spot. Is that correct? Like they're not
Because you could do anything. If you're a team that needs a running back, it's Jonty. If you're a team that needs that has a quarterback that needs offensive line, it's Campbell, who we'll probably go with. Look, if for some reason someone doesn't take some of those top tier players, something happens in those top three picks that Abdul Carter is not part of that, Shador Sanders is not part of that, then we are open for business, right? Anyone who wants Shador, if we could take him, we're open for business. We will milk that time that we have no matter what, right? I expect the Titans to not pick immediately, take a little bit of time and just see, but they will pick before their time is up. And 2 and 3 will either be telegraphed and we'll quickly get, oh, there's a trade. But then the Pats are going to take as much time as they can because it can go so many different ways.
Yeah.
Almost everybody seems to think the way this is going to go down, is that basically, yeah, we're going to end up with Campbell from LSU, which doesn't make a lot of sense at 4 because we could probably get him at 10th, but we are at 4. No one wants to trade with us. No one else wants him, and Abdul Carter is gone. Plus, we have Drake May, and we got
I
to
was about
keep
to
him
say,
upright.
like you're doubling down on your future with Drake May. I don't think that's the worst move in the world. I actually think
No, it's a great move
it's a
actually
very
because
smart,
I
conservative.
would triple down for Drake. You
Yeah, I mean,
know,
like it
I
makes
would.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give him Travis Hunter if I can, because I can give him potentially a number one on the defensive side of the ball, playing corner, and then I can give him a nice trick pony to maybe play 30% of the plays. That would be a lot of fun, and that would put a lot of butts in the seats. Drafting an offensive tackle isn't necessarily going to put butts in the seats, but it's going to keep Drake upright and keep our season in play. So I like that. And coming out of LSU, I mean, we saw what he could do. So it's nice to have that. But
Do you think it'd
truth
be
be told, if Abdul Carter's there, we're taking him. If Shador is there, we're trading the pick. If somehow things flip, and I don't know, Tennessee threw us all for a loop, and they take Shador and Cam's there, then we'll trade him too. But I think it gives us flexibility in that we know what we can do. You know, Campbell is kind of the floor for us. If anything else is there, we'll go for it. But you're right. As soon as you get past Hunter and Carter, the draft can go a lot of ways. I think another team might consider the Patriots or immediately after us to get Jonty. That's another guy to get. I mean, he's the best running back in this class, you
Speaking of
know.
Genti, would it be funny if like we saw Saquon leave the Giants, right? And we saw the debacle that was in the Giants front office from was the HBO
Hard
show,
knocks.
Hard Knocks, right? Wouldn't it be
Ruin that show. That
what,
show's now going to feature Bill Belichick in Carolina because no NFL team will touch it.
what if the Giants like like as a
Oh
counter
no,
that
no.
take
They pass up one of the best
Genti?
players, a generational talent
They take
in
Genti?
Hunter or something. No, no.
I don't see it either, but that I mean I would laugh and Giants fans that we know
The
and
only other
Giant
reason
fans that we know and love around here would probably go crazy.
to use funny football verbiage, the only other reason that's like impossible is that the Giants have done so much research on
I
this draft that for them to do that, no, I can't. I can't. The only other team that could really muck this up and get an F on their pick is the Browns if they do something wacky, you know.
yeah.
But I can't imagine you're under the amount of scrutiny and you've heard what everybody else has said that you're not doing that in the top three. So I
I
don't
gotta
think. I
imagine the
mean,
Browns are facing Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson 4 times a year, right? Plus that doesn't even factor in any of the AFC. If they're playing the AFC West, then you got all those quarterbacks. Like I just I and now they have and they I just don't see them not taking Travis Hunter. I think you take the DB so that you can shut down Joe Burrow and
yeah,
Lamar Jackson.
yeah, shut down Joe Burrow, shut down any number one soon. I mean, look, is Hunter going to be an all pro week one? No, but he'll get there very quickly. And given what he's saying, he's playing both sides of the ball, and the Browns seem like a team that would allow him to do that. They would need that on the other side of the ball too, and that's pretty fun for a quarterback. Now, technically, do the Browns need a quarterback? Yeah. But would they necessarily want to bring in Shador after everything they've done and have Dion there? I don't know that they would do that. So the only other team that starts to get kind of interesting to round out, I guess the top six for now would be, the Jags would kind of be open for business, depending. And the only other thing I would think is if the Jags are out there saying they're going to take Jonty, I see the Steelers really wanting Jonty. So I could see the Steelers doing a deal just so the Jags don't mess them up, um, to trade up one spot to get Jonty. That feels like something the Raiders would do. And Jacksonville would want those picks because maybe they don't love their quarterback for the future and they haven't been able to get over the hump and maybe they need more picks. So that's the only other like trade scenario I'm seeing just out of the top five is that Jacksonville can put some pressure on the Raiders and a couple other teams behind them to come up. There is a lot of talk that the Saints want a quarterback, so they could get in for Shador, but that would be a lot more hypothetical than I think we're
Yeah,
ready for.
I don't really think the Saints need to trade to 5 with Jacksonville. I think Shador is going to drop to 9 to them, and if they want him, they got his pick. Every team above them made moves, or they have a quarterback that they like. Right? Carolina, Bryce Young came on pretty after he took a benching. Bryce Young actually played pretty well the last like 5 6 weeks of the
Yeah.
season. Justin Fields on the Jets, right? That's a sore topic for me. I think the Raiders are
And you don't feel
okay.
like the Colts at 14 are doing anything to get up.
Hmm, I don't know what I mean.
I don't
Listen,
think they have
a
a
lot of
lot
these a lot of
to
these
sit there.
teams have glaring holes on the lines that they want. Like
And they
most,
have cap issues, and so
I
they
mean,
need
it's
these picks.
I
Yeah.
just I don't see like if Shador goes in the first 10 picks, it's to the Saints, and I don't think it's anyone else.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll stick you to that. I won't hold you to a gin shot, but I like that pick. I
Buster
like
will though.
authoritative picks. It's very easy to talk around the draft and just kind of say kind of what you think, but don't lock it down, you know.
Right, right, right. It's really
Um,
easy for us that don't make this as a living and just do it for fun to kind of skirt around any type of, hey, this is the Sam Niedermeyer Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock of the Week. I'm not doing that this
yeah,
week.
yeah. So
That
we were
being,
talking about my team. We're gonna segue to your team a little bit.
yeah.
Kind of the last bigger QB storyline for me. Like, what are your Steelers gonna do? What do you want them to do? What do you think their plans might be?
I mean, we just said all this. I just said all this stuff about Shador being picked up by the Saints, but if he were to drop to 21, I think I'd be okay. I mean, it sounds like they really like him. Either they signed Mason Rudolph. I think Mason Rudolph would be the starter if they don't have quote unquote the former Green Bay Packer, New York Jet quarterback who shall
Sure,
remain
might
named.
retire.
If he retires or doesn't sign, then I think they're gonna be okay with Mason Rudolph and drafting a quarterback. Look, they're gonna have to they're gonna have to draft as if he's not gonna be on the team, right? Because at this
Yeah, I mean, similar situation to where I thought the Giants were going to be. If you asked me immediately after they signed Jameis Winston, I would say they are drafting a quarterback because they would start Jameis and then go to the rookie. But then when they got Russell after that, like, okay, you didn't pay Jameis much. You only paid Russell 10, and Russell's loving being in the New York market. He's at Knicks games and he's all around. But now that you have both of them, to sign a rookie as well would feel like overkill. And now you have so many quarterbacks. Like, why? And just, not that Russell has an ego, but Jameis might earn a spot in there. And like, so now you have three, and then they had already signed Tommy Cutlets. So after signing Russell, I'm fairly confident the Giants are not going to. And prove me wrong. Let's see. Um, but for the Steelers, I think it's just a little more dire in that they did miss on Fields. You and I talked about that. They sort of pegged him instead of Russell. And the rift between the Steelers OC and Russell made for a better situation to split. So look, I mean, for me, if there's a coach that can get over this hurdle and figure it out with his GM, it's definitely the Steelers coach.
yeah,
So I have not that you need my faith in him, but they'll figure it out. And
there's just no quarterback that you want to take in the first round for the Steelers. They learned their lesson from Kenny Pickett. I think what they're probably going to do is that the running back, I forget his name from North Carolina, that is interesting.
Orion or
Yeah,
Orion. Yeah.
he's been moving up, so I'm interested in him. But I think running back in the first round, they learned their lesson from Najee Harris. This is a deep class for defensive line.
Yeah.
I could see that, and there's probably going to be 12 defensive linemen in edge, maybe 14 that are drafted in the first
Yeah.
round. Um,
Running backs are commodities too, so
they
I wouldn't
are,
put
they
out a
are,
running back trade in
but I
here,
think
you
with
know.
just with the draft that they did with Najee Harris, with Kenny Pickett 2 years in a row going first round of those positions, they don't want to. I think they learned their lesson there, and I think they're going to go defensive line for a plan for when Kane Hayward retires in probably 2 or 3, maybe not even. I mean, he's almost
Yeah, start
33.
grooming that replacement. Yeah.
I mean, but Cam's playing amazing, so it's gonna be like, all right, maybe they trade. Maybe they trade out. They don't have a second round pick. Maybe they find, hey, what if we traded a first round pick for a second and a third
Mhm.
rounder? Because there's a lot of value in the second, third, fourth round.
Yeah, we
I would
said if
go,
they
I would be
did
okay
do
with them
that,
trading out and trading down.
yeah, trade down and then target someone at quarterback, like at the third spot at quarterback and go after a Jackson Dart,
He,
SEC,
if
who
he
we
drops,
both like.
yeah,
And could fit. They just wouldn't want to do it in the first round. Again, little gun shy after Pickett. Pickett's not on the squad anymore. Anytime picks go away, it isn't great. Anytime picks aren't, living up, it's not great. But yeah, you and I both talked about this too, that after that, after Dart, it gets sketched. Like I think Jalen Milroe can be something within a few years, but I don't see him starting this year on any squad and being very successful. And then after that, it starts getting really dicey at quarterback, and we're looking at like quality backups at best. I think I like
is there a
Quinn
better
Ewers.
quarterback? Is there a better quarterback? Sorry, I'll let you go back. Is there a better quarterback name than Jackson Dart?
I
throwing.
mean, he throws dots. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfect. And he is accurate, so it's good. And
Uh,
look, we saw him play well and in the SEC. Don't get me wrong, Quinn Ewers did well, but he had Arch Manning on his heels, and that went back and forth. And, Texas is the program that it is. No, I like
he
Dart.
got
I
hurt.
like
He got
Dart.
hurt.
Similar to what Drake May has been able to do. Maybe not as fast, maybe not like within the first 4 or 5 games. But if the Steelers could get him and could maybe start Rudolph for a little while and get Dart ready and midseason Dart's able to come in, that is
I,
not a terrible thing to do.
I
You
am
do have to
perfectly
figure
fine with
out
that
some
plan.
running back. I think it's pretty consensus that Jalen Warren is not a bell cow, and he
No,
won't
don't
hold up as a
don't
bell
sleep
cow.
on Jalen, brother. Don't sleep.
No, I like him, but I got to keep him fresh in the
Yeah,
burst. And
all
if
right,
he's
fair.
and if
That's
he's
fair.
getting 25 touches, that's not going to
Yeah,
last.
that's true. He might not be a 25 touch guy.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, he's got that low center of gravity.
Plus, and running back is this draft is not bad for running backs. So there's stuff there. And then, at wide receiver, it's kind of deep in the middle as well. There's some top tier wide receiver here, and then there's some good stuff in the middle for the slot and the X. So
And
that
and
all being said, we took a little bit longer there.
just one more thing about
Oh, hold it.
not so fast, my friend. Thank you, Lord President. I think the one more guy to look out for, right? If I'm not talking about the Steelers, but just the quarterback in general. Kyle McCord from Syracuse. He played at Ohio State first for a couple seasons. Guy
Beat
can
Cam
sling it.
Ward and those
Guy can sling
Miami
it.
Hurricanes.
Yeah, he did. He did. Cam Ward from Incarnate Ward, as we know. Um, a little shout out to our previous episode, but
Yeah.
I do like Kyle McCord. I think he could be a serviceable quarterback. I don't know if he'll be a star, but he could certainly be someone that comes in and is able to take your team for a victory once or twice if your quarterback gets hurt this year, next year, 3 years down the road.
Totally. All right, so that kind of, broad draft strokes, stuff we think, our teams, top of the draft, some trades. Now we get in the meat of our episode here with our South Carolina players. If you missed our combine episode previously, check that out too. We profile a lot of these players. Carolina had a whole host of invitees to the combine. And with that combine, we talk about this a lot in that episode, but Nick Emmanwori was able to really solidify his place in this draft and shoot up boards. Now, if you ask me and Sam and even Buster remotely, he would say, top 10. And he does feel like a top 10 talent. But again, we talked about QBs are valued a little higher. A couple running backs are valued a little higher. So their draft status goes up. Here we see Nick running so fast that the camera can't even keep up. He just knocked it out of the park. He really threw himself forward in this draft. We are seeing projections as high as 13. I would not put 11 or 12 out of the capability here, especially where, and we'll get into this, there's a couple teams like, say, the Carolina Panthers who like to put players together, have been known for drafting Gamecock players, and may want to trade up a little to get him and then get another one, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, he really killed it in the combine. He's definitely going to be the highest drafted Gamecock in this draft. And we're looking at basically, yeah, anywhere, the draft can vary anywhere from like 12 or 13 into the 20s, but that would all keep him in the first round no matter what, which means he gets that guaranteed 5. And he's a first round talent. So, congrats to him no matter what happens. Even if he is not drafted in the first round, he's still that quality player. That's just how the draft goes. But it should be a big day for him in Green Bay.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that he could. So I like the spot, all those spots that he's projected to go. Um, right in the. Listen, I don't want him going to Baltimore at 27. I don't. That's the one place I don't want him going. Do not go to the Baltimore Ravens. I cannot stand to see Nick Emmanwori in a Ravens puke purple and black jersey. I do not want to see that. As much respect as I have for the Baltimore Ravens, that organization, I despise them. Please don't go there. That being said, I mean, the Commanders would be great. I don't think he's going to fall all the way down to 29.
Oh, Commanders would be like the best landing
That'd
spot
be a
for
great
him,
landing
probably.
spot for him. I don't think he'll drop all the way down to 29. It does feel like Atlanta or Miami would probably be is a good landing spot for him. I know Miami needs a lot of help, especially with what seems like Calais Campbell is probably gonna. I mean, he still keeps playing really well too. So they're gonna need somebody that is a big hitter. I know Campbell plays on the line and Emmanwori plays at safety, but anything we saw from Emmanwori this year, He led the team in tackles, tied for the most tackles, and he's a big hitter. And he can, as we saw, he returned 2 touchdowns this year. Should have been three, but he is a baller. I like
Yeah, I'm not going to go as hard against that
Miami.
as you do for the Ravens. I'm just going to say I would prefer he not wear that teal and play in that stadium.
I didn't
But
think about that, brother. Hey,
but if he
how about
does,
the
he
Falcons?
does, and
How
just
about the
don't
Falcons?
hit my Drake that hard, But no, yeah, does Miami need it? Do they need to invest on that side of the ball? Sure. Miami's been all about speed on offense, and that has played them to a certain point, but everyone's getting knocked around, and they can't always stop anybody, and they need to stop somebody, right? I mean, if they don't get more pieces on defense, Buffalo's going to run right over them, and they're going to have difficulty stopping offenses like the Jets and the Pats. So they gotta invest in that. Um, if he does end up there, more power to him. That's not so bad. I think for me, I'd love to see him on the Falcons. I've seen some people saying that at 15. I think that'd be an awesome landing spot for him. He's still close to home. He's within his market. He becomes a very marketable piece on the Falcons if he plays well right away. And he's playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium where he would want to play anyways, playing in college. So I think that could be kind of a sweet one. If I see him going to the Atlanta Falcons, I'm going to cheer a little louder, and I'm definitely watching more Falcons games than I did before. That's for sure.
It'd be really
Um,
cool if he landed in Atlanta. I'd be okay with that.
yeah, I mean, look, I think we also mentioned the Vikings. Nice to be playing indoors there. They don't seem to have as much buzz this year, obviously, because they're moving on from Darnold, and we don't know about JJ yet. But that could be a fun spot for him too to build a name in Minnesota as well. Playing against some high profile teams in the NFC North. So. I think in order our preferences here, we both agree Commanders. That would be really sick for Nick. I think second probably by default is the Falcons, then probably Dolphins, then probably Ravens. So I I think we're gonna say Dolphins if you want to stick it to us, and Buster wants to hit us with a gin shot later. But we'll get his opinion at some point as well. I think he would be excited about Falcons or Commanders too. Commanders are historically Carolina fans are Commanders fans because that was the team that was marketed and within the region. So there are a lot of Commanders fans down there. Falcons fans too, obviously. So moving right along. Next player we kind of have on this list for Carolina getting drafted, TJ Sanders, probably in the second round, probably in the 50s, maybe as high as 40s, something like the Niners at 43 or the Bengals at 49. But I think we both agree if he could go to the Panthers at 57, that would be amazing. He wouldn't even have to move.
The Panthers have selected like I think it's like 5 or 6 Gamecocks since the 2019 draft, right? Last year they took Xavier Leggett in the first round. J.C. Horn, right? Great defensive back at South Carolina. He just got a contract extension. They have a propensity to take these guys to take Carolina Gamecocks 90 miles down the road, right? You might as well get the guys out in your backyard. TJ Sanders, he can go anywhere from second or third round. We're gonna stay optimistic. I do think he lands in the second round.
Yeah, I think second round. Yeah.
Because I mean, like we said, like the defensive line is so stacked. It's the most it's the deepest position in this year's draft. So guys are going to go. So people are going to be like, well, we got to scramble and get our guy now. So I could see,
Yeah, that run is going to happen by then. Yeah.
and I think the run happens right around definitely by the end of the second. There's some selections between 55 and 60 where it's like the Bengals, the Texans, the Panthers that could all use defensive line help.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
you got to keep Joe Burrow up. You got
the
to keep CJ
Bills, right?
Stroud up.
Yeah, so I think if he stays, if Carolina doesn't trade and he's still on the board, I think they do take him at 57.
Yeah. 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 But a lot more consensus with TJ, like much more precise. 40, early 40s at the absolute earliest, but kind of square in the 50s, and someone's taking him there. That feels pretty good. And we'd feel good for TJ for almost any of those. Bills would, but other than that, yeah, watching him on the Bengals would be a lot of fun too. Obviously, if he gets over to the Niners, they could use him real big because, that Brock Purdy contract is looking to be pretty big, and they need cheap quality players, and that's where you go is the draft to do that, right? All right. So the next player we got, it just is sort of in order of talent and how they'll be drafted here, at least how we think. We got Demetrius Knight. He's probably going absolute earliest absolute earliest second round if the Cowboys do something a little nuts.
Yeah.
But really more likely somewhere between third and fifth, depending on how the run goes. I think generally we're thinking third, somewhere around 80-ish, something like that. Something like the Cardinals, the Broncos, maybe later to the Panthers if they do want to make a run at Carolina players. But that feels fifth feels a little late for him, you know.
It does, but it also all depends on like the run of defensive linemen that we could see, right? So if we see a lot of defensive linemen getting picked, then Demetrius is going to drop. That's just the way it's
Yeah,
going to go. If we see some of
yeah.
the defensive linemen that are kind of staying around the third, fourth, fifth, people are looking at other positions. He could go like third to the card. He could go in the third round of the Cardinals. Like Denver probably needs a linebacker as well. There's another situation where it feels like Carolina needs linebacker help.
Yeah. Oh,
Demetrius
if he falls to them in the
in
fifth, totally. Yeah,
or
and if they
or
maybe want to
fourth
trade up a
round.
little to get him,
Yeah,
maybe,
I mean they can
maybe.
make some moves. There's probably gonna be a lot of trading in this draft just because there's so much talent, deep talent, I should say, quality talent, not necessarily star talent.
Yeah, yeah. Teams
Currently
that don't
starter.
need that player or that position will want to get that value in future drafts. So that's kind of why we're saying that. Yeah, so that would be a good spot for him. And if we do end up with multiple players on the Panthers, that'll kind of keep that run going. That'll be kind of fun to see that play out and watch those guys play together. And that has been a theme, at least on the offensive side of the ball too. Guys from the same squads getting drafted and taking that rapport into the NFL, which would be pretty cool. All right. So then moving right along, next up we got Kyle Kennard. We got a little more consensus here. He's definitely fourth or fifth, probably fourth. And we got a couple of sources, The Athletic and ESPN, pegging the Pats for this. So that would be kind of awesome for me. I haven't had a lot of Gamecocks go to the Pats, and to have a couple people saying it. And it mostly seems like it's going to be AFC no matter what. The other ones we were seeing here, Titans, Jags, Chargers, is all AFC. So at the very least, maybe you could just wear an AFC shirt going into the draft, you know?
This does seem like a perfect so we were looking over the mock draft ahead of time and the Bronco Nagurski Defensive Player of the Year award winner Kyle Kennard, it seems like a perfect fit for the New England Patriots.
I
And
know, look at our new coach,
I'm
right?
not just blowing smoke, but yeah, exactly. It's Mike Vrabel. He's a Belichick disciple. You got to imagine that, like you said, they really like Abdul Carter. He's probably not gonna fall to four, and I don't think anyone's gonna like, you
If
know,
he does, then
if he
throw
doesn't
this out
take
the
him,
window.
but you get the
Yeah.
sense that the Patriots are probably going to take another, defensive lineman or an rusher in the second round, or maybe even trade up. This is a good opportunity to be like, hey, let's take a guy who was proven in college but still needs some development, still needs some work on some of his
And you have a defensive head coach who
cleaning up.
wants to do
And
that,
guess
who
what?
like
Now we got
literally wants to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
now we got guys, we got depth at defensive line. I think it makes sense to go to the Patriots in the fifth round, or maybe even the fourth round. But I think they'll go defensive lineman before that, and this will be the second defensive lineman they take. I think they're going to double up on that because they're not going to have
Sure.
that top five or top four defensive lineman from the draft. So this makes perfect sense for the Pats to double up on defensive edge rushers there.
All right. So I swear that's it on Patriots. This is not a Patriots show. I am a Patriots
What? For
fan.
the first time
It's
in a while, I want to
weird.
talk about the Patriots, and you're like, no more Patriots.
Well, because I don't want to, like I'll jinx it. And if I really want Kennard, I got to stop talking about it. But I really like what you're saying there. I do think we do need to go at those players. I do think we get multiple of those players. We do have this new coach who is a Patriot, who played defense on the Patriots, who is a defensive head coach. That's what he's going to want to do. Do we need offensive weapons? Yeah. How would I like this draft to go? Yeah, I'd love Hunter to fall. We get him. We get a D lineman. We get Kennard later. That would be fine. But we'll see how it plays out, and that's why we make all these predictions. But moving right along, we're kind of near the bottom of players who will be drafted from South Carolina, so we'll kind of rocket through these. And I'm going to skip over one player to go to my segue. And while we do like Tonka to potentially go in the fifth round, we very much like Rocket Sanders going in the seventh, maybe a little higher if running backs go on a run. I mean, I mentioned Ashton Jonty. If someone ends up trading for him, like the Raiders feel like they have to with the Jags, and there's a little bit of a run of running backs, then I do think you could see Rocket higher than this. I do think he will fit in with the teams that people are projecting, the Browns or the Texans, as a complementary piece. And I also think that the Browns and the Texans are not done at running back, even if they were to get Rocket, right? I mean, I don't think Jerome Ford is going to be the guy for them as a bell cow. And then I don't see Joe Mixon continuing to be that bell cow for Houston either. So those I think are two solid spots. But I also think by the time you get to the seventh round, who knows where contract situations are with other running backs. And you want a guy who's experienced, who's played throughout the SEC, who can step in and play physical football at the running back position. I like Rocket. I actually like Rocket in the late sixth, but I get why people are saying seven.
He could go anywhere, man. Like I know that the ESPN Sporting News has him go to the Texans or the Browns. Like maybe some people have him Cowboys or whatever. So here is my wait for it moment. You talked about
What?
Jalen Warren not being a bell cow. I'll tell you who's a bell cow is this man, Rocket Sanders. Judge, if you can just even look at that picture of him plowing through the Missouri defense to win the game with 12 seconds left. You talk about a guy who can carry the rock. This is Rocket Sanders.
That
I,
could easily be against the Bengals and the Browns.
I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure.
listen, Jalen Warren is proven that he can rush for 1,000 yards. You're right, he does need a compliment, and he was an undrafted NFL. They brought him in as an undrafted rookie. I think Rocket Sanders, even if he does, I mean, I think I would love to see him as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I think this is a guy like I know we're not going to get Gentry. I know we're not going to
That's
get the guy.
fine. I did my Patriots thing. You're doing your
Let me
Steelers thing. I like it. But
let
but
me
what's
get
the
Rocket.
tagline? You always go thunder and lightning, right? But you got to use rocket. So what is it
Rock,
rocket and like rocket and TNT or rocket and we got to work on that. We got to work on that.
it's Rocket in the
I
gym.
think I think Warren would like it because of the style that they're two totally different styles, right? And so then it can almost be like what maybe what Detroit was doing a little bit. You know what I mean? Like you like Rocket, he works on downs, and you have your quarterback, and there's some chemistry there, and Rocket can be the I don't want to call him a plotter, but I want to say the more physical back, and then Warren can stay a little fresh for bigger plays, for option plays, for passing plays, and he can
He can
rip it.
block.
You
And he can
know.
block. He can block too.
Yep.
He's pretty pro ready. Rocket Sanders is. I don't. I mean, I know he's fallen because he doesn't have the typical body of a running of an NFL running back. He's a little bit bigger, but Derrick Henry's
But I
huge.
like that too. If you do end up with a dart, you have Rocket in there to block for Mason, make him comfortable, keep him there as the veteran, and then potentially segueing to the rookie and blocking for the rookie, and then he can really look to Warren. I mean, imagine Rocket and Warren on the field at the same time. That's kind of fun. That's a good
Yeah.
one. I think if that happens, we'll have a lot more to talk about there. But either way, excited to see where Rocket goes. We know he's a complementary piece in that he will bring snaps at the running back position that need to be sopped up wherever he's going to go. And there's a lot of teams that can use that. And
And
sixth,
I
seventh round is a great place to get it, where running back has historically now been a little devalued.
yeah, I could
People will
see
go
him
there
even if he
for it.
doesn't get drafted. I could see him getting worked out by several teams, or at least getting signing an undrafted rookie free agent. I really
Yeah,
could.
being a quality UDFA. Yeah, I still think he does get drafted with the pedigree with Arkansas and South Carolina, and I do see
I think he
maybe
does
a
too.
knock with the miles on the tires. But yeah. Um, so we're getting a little thin after this, but a couple more players. Sam's guy, Josh Simon, tight end. Sam, you thinking he might go?
ESPN's got him going to the Cowboys in the seventh round. I mentioned this in our episode in our five Gamecocks to watch the combine that you can look at and click on right above me, right up here. Just click on that right now. As Mike said, look in the description below. Um, I could see an AFC West team taking him, and any of those teams because they all kind of need tight end help. The Chiefs, obviously, they got Kelsey can't be there forever. I think the Chargers are looking for a tight end.
Yep.
Other LA team, NFC West, the Rams with uh, uh, what's not McDermott? Who's the heck? McVay.
No, you're right. They
Sean
did
McVay
have they
likes to,
did.
yeah. I could see them with the exception of the Raiders. I think they're set with Bowers. I could see the plethora of AFC, NFC West teams taking Josh Simon.
Yeah, for me, I think Broncos because
Broncos make sense too.
Sean Payton inherited some guys, and they did trade away Dulcich. So he sort of vacated a guy at that position that was a draft pick, and he now maybe has his own guy. And maybe he wants a guy from the SEC to pair with his quarterback. So that's that I like. The Rams, I kind of like too because they had their tight end, but he got hurt and then he wasn't the same when he came back. So I do kind of like that too, and I like that to keep Matty Stafford going and a dump off for him, especially where they're getting rid of Cooper Kupp, which was a lot of offensive snaps. So yeah, I think almost anywhere west, yeah. I do like the Dallas thing because Dallas has had a lot of tight ends, but they let them get away. The only one I would throw in there if they're still mucking around by then with this would be the Texans because I feel like they've had veterans there. They have a lot of offensive snaps, receiving snaps that are vacated now with some injuries and their wide receiver room. And I think, it might be a good job to give that to CJ Stroud. So either way, yeah, opportunity for Simon to get in there and would love to see him get drafted. After that, we're not really sure. We on our list here, I'll just say we do have Odell Fortune and he did play well. I'm mixing them up now. Was it the Shrine Bowl or the East West?
So it was the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. It was
Yeah, I
in
think it was Shrine where he got that defensive MVP and definitely upped his stock there. If not, he will. Look, I'm going to say he either gets drafted or gets signed UFA, so he's in the league. But whether it's one or the other, when you're getting down here, that's tough to say. And then we got one more on the list that I'm going to leave to Sam to bring us home.
the man that we had mentioned earlier in the episode, Mr. Kai Kroeger. Of course, you can't have a Gamecock draft without a Gamecock special team player, right? So
Special
Kai
teams.
Kroeger, Walter Football has him being projected as going number 208 in the sixth round to the Denver Broncos. Could you imagine a kicker kicking it in that thin air? I mean, we're talking about Kai Kroeger.
Yeah,
He's gonna
yeah,
make
he could
a 70
boom.
yarder.
Yeah.
He's gonna make a 70-yard field goal. We're gonna book it right now.
And look, this is a bit of a dart throw at the end of the draft, a home run ticket, but rookie kickers have been successful. Teams have missed, right? I see that Georgia kicker with the goggles. I see him kicking in the UFL, so he's out of league at the moment. The Pats drafted a guy from Arizona who isn't even on the team anymore. So like it happens, but when you're down this deep in the draft and there are quality players there are positions you're going to need and it does save you money rather than going out and getting a vet and going through all the
Yeah.
tryouts. I'm a guy that you can coach, especially if you have a good special teams coach. Denver does, and kicking in that thin air could be cool, especially for a rookie. So would love to see it happen. If not, we're fairly certain, he's another UDFA, and that should round out the draft, and then potentially signees after that.
Another good point about the Kai Kroger thing, and Coach Beamer was on a podcast. I don't remember what it was, last week or 2 weeks ago. He said this is the most he's ever talked to NFL managers, and like he said, he's talked to more NFL managers this year than he has in the last 4 years combined. Which one is a great sign of growth for the program, but two, I mean, he's a special teams and defense guy. You don't think he's going to be like, hey, here's
Pumping
my
Kai.
special
Yeah.
teams guy, here's my defense guy. Like, don't sleep on that. Coaches love the special teams players that can come in and make a difference immediately.
Yeah. I also think, Sam, while I'm sure there's truth to that, I also think that's a nice recruiting tool. You know,
100%.
recruits in the portal and guys who are looking to sign are hearing coach that he's talking to more NFL managers forever. They want to play in the NFL. They want their head coach talking to guys in the NFL, of course. So if that is actually happening and coach is talking about it, great. If he is talking more, not necessarily every day, not all the time, I just see Beamer, shouldering more of that responsibility, realizing there is more to do here than just X's and O's and coaching the squad that I have. I have to entice people into the program. I have to let them know what goes on behind the scenes a little bit and how this process works so that when they get here and hopefully, we have Gamecocks this year who are the next Emmanwori, the next Kai Kroeger, the next Tonka Hemingway. And they're going through the draft process. They know that coach is there with them, that coach is answering those questions, and is not just guiding them at the beginning of their career and into SEC play, but out of SEC play and into the league and this process that is the draft, right? Because we saw Emmanwori through the combine. This hasn't just been, oh, he's great, he's going tops. No, he earned it. He did it on the field. He sat out that bowl game to be ready for the combine. He executed at the combine. He shot up trap boards. And we may surprise everyone, Sam, and watch. He does go 9 or 10 and we hit it the whole time, and then we'll come back and be like, "Told ya," you
Yeah,
know.
you know,
Um,
we got the digital receipts.
yes, exactly, and that's a great place to leave off because I got digital receipts for sure that I gotta cash in here. But that's gonna wrap us up for the draft episode. Let us know how we did. Let us know if there are any other players that you want to talk about. We could definitely revisit some of this when Buster's back and after the draft for our recap of the draft. If you like what you're seeing, like, subscribe, let us know. And that's gonna be another episode of Alumni
Game,
Cox.
game.
Da 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 da.